1,500 years ago, builders in India mixed hemp into the plaster covering the walls of the Ellora Caves. The plant material remained hidden inside those ancient surfaces for centuries. Its presence was only confirmed after researchers examined the plaster using modern scientific instruments. Today, a modern relative of that idea is appearing in an entirely different kind of building. Not a cave, not a rural cottage, but a 12-story building rising above the streets of Cape Town, South Africa. Behind its finished walls are blocks made partly from the woody core of the hemp plant. They are intended to insulate the building, regulate moisture, and help reduce the amount of outdoor heat reaching the rooms inside. But this material does not produce cold air. It does not operate like an air conditioner. And despite the building being described as the world's tallest hemp structure, these hemp walls are not holding up its 12 floors. A conventional structural frame does that job. So what exactly is the hemp doing? How can a wall made from a plant help keep a building cooler without consuming electricity? And if the principle has existed in some form for more than a millennium, why are walls like these still so unusual? To answer that, we first need to separate an ancient discovery from a modern construction myth. Hemp was found in the earth, and lime plaster applied over the stone. But these caves were not built from hempcrete like modern walls. The plant fibers may have helped control cracking and improve the durability of the plaster, but there is no firm evidence that ancient builders added hemp specifically to cool the caves. What Ellora really shows is an older, simpler idea. Plant material can be combined with mineral binders to change the properties of a building material. Modern hempcrete developed along a very different path, and that story did not begin in an ancient cave. It began with the renovation of an old house in France. In 1986, French builder Charles Rossetti was working on the restoration of Maison de la Tourque, a historic timber-framed house in Nogent-sur-Seine. The old structure presented a familiar restoration problem. Its timber frame needed a wall material that could fill irregular spaces without trapping moisture or behaving too rigidly around the aging wood. Heavy conventional masonry was not an ideal match. Modern cement-rich materials could also restrict the movement of moisture through the wall. Rossetti experimented with a material that was inexpensive and locally available: the woody fragments left after hemp stalks had been processed for fiber and paper. These fragments are known as hemp shiv or hemp hurd. He combined them with a lime-based binder and water, producing a lightweight mixture that could be packed around the existing frame. The result was neither traditional concrete nor ordinary insulation. It hardened into a continuous wall layer, yet remained porous enough to allow water vapor to move through it. The technique attracted attention beyond restoration work. During the following decade, builders and manufacturers in France developed more consistent mixtures, specialized lime binders, and construction methods designed specifically for hemp-lime walls. The material could be cast inside temporary formwork, sprayed around a supporting frame, formed into masonry blocks, or placed inside prefabricated panels. Each method changed the speed, density, cost, and thermal performance of the finished wall. This is why hempcrete is not one universal recipe. It is a family of materials whose behavior depends on how three basic ingredients are combined. And the first of those ingredients is not the part of the hemp plant most people imagine. Hempcrete is not made from the leaves or flowers commonly associated with the cannabis plant. It uses the stalk, and more specifically, the lightweight woody core hidden beneath the outer fibers. Once the valuable long fibers have been removed for products such as textiles, the remaining core is broken into small, irregular pieces called shiv. Under a microscope, each piece resembles a bundle of tiny channels. Those channels once transported water and nutrients through the living plant. In a wall, they create an extensive network of pores. The second ingredient is a mineral binder, normally based primarily on lime. When mixed with water, the binder coats the hemp particles and connects them as it hardens. The finished material is therefore a composite. The mineral portion provides cohesion, fire protection, and resistance to biological decay. The plant portion supplies lightweight volume and a complex porous structure. Between them is the third ingredient: air. Air occupies countless small spaces inside the shiv and throughout the hardened mixture. That makes hempcrete dramatically lighter than structural concrete. But lightness comes with a major limitation. Hempcrete has relatively low compressive strength. It is not intended to support 12 floors, carry major beams, or replace the reinforced frame of a high-rise building at 84 Harrington Street. The structural frame carries the building. The hempcrete blocks fill selected areas between structural elements and form part of the external envelope. Their job is not to hold the tower up, Their job begins when the Cape Town sun strikes the building's outer surface on a clear summer afternoon. Sunlight delivers far more energy to a wall than the outdoor air temperature alone would suggest. A thermometer may report 30 degrees Celsius, while a dark surface exposed to direct sun becomes considerably hotter. Before heat reaches the hempcrete, it must first interact with the building's outer finish. The color, texture, reflectivity, and exposure of that surface determine how much solar energy is reflected and how much is absorbed. The absorbed portion raises the temperature of the wall's exterior. From there, heat begins moving inward by conduction. In a dense material, the path can be relatively direct. Energy passes from one closely packed region to the next. Hempcrete creates a much more complicated journey. The solid path is repeatedly interrupted by hemp particles, mineral binder, microscopic pores, and larger pockets of trapped air. Still, air transfers heat poorly compared with dense concrete or solid masonry. The result is lower thermal conductivity. Heat moves through the wall more slowly. But insulation is only part of what happens. Hempcrete also absorbs some thermal energy as its temperature rises. Instead of appearing immediately at the interior surface, the incoming heat is distributed through the depth of the wall over time. This changes two features of the heat wave. First, its peak becomes weaker. A sharp rise on the outside can become a smaller and smoother change at the interior surface. Second, the peak arrives later. Engineers describe this delay as thermal lag or time shift. In one long-term study of a hemp-lime house in southwestern France, measurements through the walls showed that outdoor temperature variations were strongly dampened, with a time shift of approximately 12 hours in that particular assembly. That does not mean every hempcrete wall delays heat by exactly 12 hours. Wall thickness matters. Density matters. Moisture content, binder composition, climate, surface finish, and the position of the supporting frame all matter. Even so, the principle has an important consequence for passive cooling. If the strongest daytime heat is delayed until evening, and the outdoor air has become cooler by then, windows or controlled ventilation can help release that stored energy. The building avoids receiving the full heat peak at the same moment that the sun and outdoor air are already imposing their greatest load. This can reduce overheating and lower the amount of mechanical cooling required to maintain comfort. But thermal delay is not automatically beneficial. In a climate where nights remain hot and humid, the wall may release stored heat when there is no cooler air available to remove it. Poor ventilation can turn delayed heat into delayed discomfort, and a good wall cannot compensate for unlimited solar gain through an uninsulated roof or large unshaded windows. Hempcrete therefore does not stop heat, and it does not destroy thermal energy. It reduces the rate of heat transfer, softens the peak, and shifts part of the load to a later time. That is how a passive wall can help a building remain cooler without consuming electricity itself. Yet temperature is only half of what determines whether a room feels comfortable. The other half is moving invisibly through the same pores. Hempcrete walls are often described as breathable. That phrase is useful, but it can also be misleading. A wall does not inhale fresh air and exhale stale air like a pair of lungs. Ventilation still requires windows, openings, ducts, or mechanical equipment. In building science, a breathable wall normally means that water vapor can move through its materials instead of becoming trapped behind an impermeable layer. Hempcrete can do more than allow vapor to pass through. Its pore network is hygroscopic, meaning that it can attract and temporarily hold moisture from the surrounding air. When indoor humidity rises, water molecules can attach to surfaces inside those pores. When the surrounding air becomes drier, part of that moisture can be released again. This process is known as moisture buffering. It can reduce sudden swings in indoor relative humidity, particularly when the wall is finished with vapor-permeable lime plaster. That matters because the human body does not experience temperature in isolation. We cool ourselves partly by evaporating moisture from the skin. When the air is already very humid, that evaporation becomes less effective, making the same temperature feel more oppressive. By moderating short-term humidity changes, hempcrete may contribute to a more stable and comfortable indoor environment. Moisture exchange also interacts with heat. Absorbing and releasing water involves small transfers of energy, adding another layer to the wall's dynamic thermal behavior, but this ability has limits. Hempcrete cannot continuously absorb unlimited moisture. It cannot replace ventilation in a crowded room, an extractor fan in a bathroom, or dehumidification in a persistently wet climate. And if the wall is covered with an impermeable paint or membrane, much of its moisture buffering potential can be restricted. Worse, liquid water entering through failed flashing, rising damp, or a leaking roof can overwhelm the assembly completely. Hempcrete performs best when it can exchange vapor while remaining protected from sustained liquid water. So the wall's thermal performance cannot be understood from a single insulation number. Its density, temperature, and moisture are constantly interacting. To determine whether those interactions deliver meaningful comfort, researchers had to leave the laboratory and monitor real buildings through changing seasons. Measuring hempcrete begins with a deceptively simple question: how easily does heat pass through it? In the laboratory, researchers measure thermal conductivity by creating a controlled temperature difference across a sample and recording the resulting heat flow. Hempcrete generally conducts far less heat than dense structural concrete, but there is no single conductivity value that represents every hempcrete wall. A light mixture containing more sheave and more trapped air may insulate better, but it may also be softer and more difficult to finish. A denser mixture may be easier to form or more resistant to damage, while allowing heat to pass more readily. Moisture changes the result again. Water conducts heat more effectively than air, so a damp wall normally performs differently from the same wall when dry. Laboratory measurements reveal the properties of the material, but they cannot reproduce an entire building. At wall scale, the supporting frame, plaster layers, joints, windows, and construction defects can create pathways that bypass the insulation. These pathways are thermal bridges. A wall can contain excellent insulation and still lose performance through poorly designed connections. The most revealing tests therefore take place in occupied buildings exposed to real weather. In southwestern France, researchers monitored a hemp-lime house over 4 years. Sensors recorded outdoor conditions, indoor temperature and humidity, and changes occurring at different depths inside the walls. The measurements showed that the walls strongly reduced exterior temperature fluctuations before they reached the interior surface. The monitored assembly also produced an approximate 12-hour time shift and helped stabilize indoor humidity. Other controlled comparisons have found hemp-lime test cells performing well during summer conditions relative to several conventional wall materials. None of this proves that hempcrete eliminates air conditioning occupant behavior. Ventilation, windows, roof design, internal heat sources, and local climate still shape the final indoor temperature. What the evidence supports is more defensible. A correctly designed hemp-lime envelope can reduce and delay heat flow, moderate humidity swings, and improve indoor comfort while lowering part of the building's heating or cooling demand. The next question is whether those laboratory and residential results can survive the complexity of larger construction. One small house in England tested the manufacturing process. A 12-story building in South Africa tested the scale. Flat House stands on Margent Farm in Cambridgeshire, England, surrounded by fields where industrial hemp is cultivated, completed in 2019. The 3-bedroom house was designed as a prototype for using locally grown biological materials in a repeatable construction system. Instead of mixing all the hempcrete directly on site, the project placed it inside timber-framed wall cassettes manufactured under more controlled conditions. The completed panels were transported into position and assembled to form the building envelope. The main wall elements were raised in roughly 2 days. Hemp also appeared. Corrugated exterior sheets made with fibers from the plant, allowing the project to test more than one hemp-based product. Flat House demonstrated that hemp construction did not have to remain a slow process of manually packing wet material into formwork. Prefabrication could improve consistency, reduce work on site, and make the wall system easier to reproduce. But a small rural home does not face the same demands as a dense urban building. That is what makes 84 Harrington Street significant. The project began with an existing 5-story building in central Cape Town. It was redeveloped and extended into a 12-story mixed-use property containing approximately 50 serviced apartments, along with commercial and hospitality spaces. A reinforced structural frame carries the floors, occupants, wind loads, and the weight of the building. Hempcrete blocks are used as non-load-bearing masonry within parts of the building envelope. This distinction matters. Calling it a building made of hemp can create the impression that plant-based blocks are supporting the tower. They are not. Their contribution lies in replacing conventional infill masonry while providing thermal and moisture-regulating functions around the occupied spaces. The project proves that hempcrete can be incorporated into a high-rise construction process alongside conventional structural materials. It does not prove that the hotel operates without mechanical cooling. Publicly available project information does not provide a verified figure showing exactly how many degrees the hemp walls reduce indoor temperature or precisely how much air conditioning energy they save. What it demonstrates is scale, not a miracle. Flat House showed how the material could be prefabricated. 84 Harrington showed that it could enter a 12-story urban supply chain, yet neither project answers the question in the title by itself. If hemp walls can improve thermal comfort, why are they still so uncommon? The first reason is that a high-performing wall can only do its job as part of a high-performing building. A building does not gain heat through its walls alone. On many low-rise buildings, the roof receives the most intense and sustained solar exposure of any surface. If that roof has poor insulation, improving the walls may have only a limited effect on the rooms below. Windows present an even more immediate challenge. Solar radiation can pass through unshaded glass and heat floors, furniture, and interior surfaces. Once that energy enters the room, even an excellent hempcrete wall cannot send it back outside. External shading therefore matters. Roof overhangs, shutters, screens, balconies, vegetation, and carefully positioned openings can block direct sun before it reaches the glass. Orientation matters as well. Different facades receive sunlight at different angles and times of day, so the same wall assembly may face very different thermal loads around one building. Then there are thermal bridges. Concrete floor edges, structural columns, metal fixings, window frames, and poorly connected insulation layers can create shortcuts around the hempcrete. If those connections are ignored, heat follows the easier route. Passive cooling also requires a plan for removing heat after it enters. Cross-ventilation can carry warm indoor air away when outdoor conditions are favorable. Night ventilation can discharge heat stored during the day, but only when the night air is sufficiently cooler. Internal sources must also be considered. People lighting, computers, cooking equipment, hot water systems, and appliances all release heat directly into occupied rooms. Hempcrete cannot prevent heat that is generated on its interior side. This is why the strongest passive buildings rely on coordinated strategies rather than a single remarkable material. Hemp walls can reduce one part of the cooling load. Shading, roofing, glazing, ventilation, and efficient equipment must address the rest. And even when the design is sound, the material can still fail if it is specified or installed incorrectly. Hempcrete's first limitation appears before construction even begins. A reliable supply chain must connect farmers, processing facilities, binder manufacturers, designers, and trained contractors. In established markets, those pieces may already exist. In many regions, one or more are missing. Raw hemp stalks cannot simply be taken from a field and mixed directly into a wall. The fibers and woody core must be separated, cleaned, graded, dried, and supplied with reasonably consistent properties. Transporting a lightweight but bulky material over long distances can also weaken both its economic and environmental advantages. Construction speed creates another obstacle. Cast-in-place hempcrete contains substantial water and needs time to dry before impermeable finishes or interior layers are installed. Weather, wall thickness, mixture density, and ventilation can all influence that drying period. Prefabricated panels and cured blocks reduce this uncertainty, but they require factories, quality control, transportation equipment, and sufficient demand to justify production. Space is another cost. Hempcrete walls often need considerable thickness to achieve their intended thermal performance. On an expensive urban site, thicker exterior walls can reduce usable floor area compared with slimmer high-performance assemblies. Designers must also work within local building regulations, fire requirements, moisture rules, insurance conditions, and approved construction practices. Hemp-lime systems are increasingly recognized, but many architects, engineers, contractors, and building officials still have limited experience with them. That unfamiliarity adds design time, training costs, perceived risk, and uncertainty about warranties. Then there are failures caused by using the material incorrectly. An impermeable coating can restrict vapor movement. Poor foundations can expose the wall to rising damp. Failed flashing can direct rain into the assembly. A mixture that is too dense may lose part of its insulating advantage. One that is poorly compacted may shrink or leave inconsistent surfaces. None of these barriers proves that hempcrete is ineffective. They explain why a promising material does not automatically become a universal one. Hempcrete works best where climate, design, local agriculture, manufacturing, labor, and regulation support the same system. That is a much higher requirement than simply discovering that a plant can be mixed into a wall. That is why hemp walls are not used everywhere. Their success depends not only on the plant, but on an entire system of climate, design, agriculture, manufacturing, labor, and regulation. Passive cooling is not always about creating cold. Sometimes it is about making heat arrive later, weaker and easier to remove. Hemp walls can slow heat entering through the sides of a building, but under direct summer sun, the roof may face an even greater thermal load. One architect found an unusual way to address that problem by burying rows of ordinary clay pots inside a concrete roof. The pots reduced unnecessary weight, interrupted part of the heat flow, and changed how the entire slab behaved. To see how that system works, and why it never became common in the West, watch the next video on screen.